Let's talk some chess. We're going to go over the Budapest Gambit, which is a really fun gambit you can play with the black pieces. Most of the common chess gambits that you see, the Queen's Gambit, King's Gambit, my favorite, the Halloween Gambit, those are generally played with white pieces, but here's something you can play when you have the black pieces. This game was played in 1952. The person with the white pieces is named Biegler, and the person with the black pieces is named Peperle, and let's just kick it right off with d4. We have knight to f6. c4, and now the defining move of the Budapest Gambit, e5. So the idea here is that you're just, giving up a pawn, which is something that starts a lot of gambits, Queen's Gambit and King's Gambit specifically. So you're giving up a pawn, but you're hoping that you're going to get a lot of development, expansion in return. So let's see sort of some of the main lines of this gambit, what sort of happens. Let's say white takes the pawn, accepts the gambit on e5. Obviously, this comes with an attack on the knight on f6. So the most common move here is just to move the knight to g4. This achieves a couple of things. Your knight is in a more threatening position, and you're also attacking the pawn on e5, threatening to equalize material right away. So there's a couple of ways to proceed here with the white pieces. The engine's preferred method is just playing e4. You forego the pawn on e5, the knight takes back, but then you have this f4 move. Once again, attacking this knight. The knight has to move back to c6, and then you get a3, which is preventing the bishop from coming to b4 with a tempo with check. So then black maybe plays d6. We have knight to f3, bishop to g4, pinning this knight to the queen, and then the game would proceed from here. And this is slightly better for white. It's a weird-looking kind of pawn structure, but these pawns are doing a good job controlling the center. You're not really too far behind in development. This is a slightly better spot for white to be. Another move that you can play after this knight to g4 is to once again forego. Oh, I should also mention, when you play this pawn to e4, you're opening up a discovered attack of the queen on the knight, so the knight has to move. So that's another benefit. Another move is just playing f3, kind of a more natural way to attack this knight on g4. Again, the knight takes on e5, and now you play e4, and you have a little bit of a better pawn structure here on the king side. So right away, black can jump into a bishop to b4 check. You block with the knight. d6 again, knight to e2, now protecting the fellow knight on c3. And again, the game will continue, and again, slightly better for white. You have this nice pawn structure. You're not really worried about an imminent attack from this gambit. Finally, there's one more sort of common move here, and that is actually protecting this pawn and trying to hold on to your material advantage. That's bishop to f4, so obviously now the pawn is protected. Black can develop the knight to c6, adding another attacker to the pawn. White defends it with knight to f3. Now there are two defenders, and once again we're going to see this bishop to b4 move with check, and you can block with the knight, and again the game will continue with white up a pawn. And here you have a lead in development here with the black pieces. So those are all the main lines for the Budapest Gambit after taking on e5. But in this game, that's actually not what happened. In this game, white said, I do not accept your gambit. I'm going to play d5. I'm going to try to establish a beachhead here on the queen side and really try to cramp, control the space here on the queen side. But black says, that's totally fine with me. I'm going to put my bishop on c5, and these two pawns are nice, but they are not really controlling at all the dark squares, and this bishop is now a powerful force on this diagonal. And in this position, white made the first kind of big mistake of the game, which is h3. The idea behind h3 is white does not want the knight to get to g4. So let's say you play something silly like a3, then you get knight to g4, and you have two pieces eyeing this f2 pawn, and that's not fun. Kind of looks like the chicken liver or the fried liver attack. I forget what it's officially called. So a reasonable idea to have, but it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because there's a really crippling attack that black can play here. So see if you can take a moment and find the correct move for black. Okay, the correct move is to, you're playing a gambit, so why not sacrifice some pieces? And that's exactly what to do here. You play bishop takes on f2 with check. And this is clearly a bishop sack, but it's going to draw the king sort of out of it's containment and into the open field of play where black's pieces can really get at it. So here you only have 2 possible moves. You can put the king on d2, but then you're just down a bishop and you're getting knight to e4 check, and that's no fun. So you might as well be up some material when you're being attacked. So king takes on f2. And now you get this knight to e4 move, and this obviously comes with check to the king. And here white played king to f3. This is not the correct move. Here you should play king to e3. It's possible that black was scared about this queen to g5 check, but then you can just take the knight on e4 and this is fine. You're up 2 pieces. You've opened up a discovered attack with the bishop to the queen. White is totally fine here. So that's the better move, but instead white moved to f3, maybe hoping to keep control of this diagonal with the bishop, but black doesn't care about that diagonal because black is going to play h4, queen to h4. And now you have the queen defending the knight, and you have the knight, the queen, and the pawn all sort of gather around the king, and this is scary for white to deal with. So here white plays g3. That's just a bad move, trying to kick the queen away, but I guess didn't see queen takes on g3 with check. The queen is protected by the knight. Or maybe white did see that and just said, okay, I'm going to take the knight, and takes the knight on e4. But then you have this really nice f5 check, and now things are getting hairy for this king. There are no squares to go to other than taking the pawn on f5. Notice that the queen is defending the pawn on e5, so the king takes. But then you have a beautiful development, not even development, a pre-development check with d6, opening up a discovered attack of the bishop to the king. And once again, there are basically very few squares for the king to go to. The only square is e4. And now see if you can find the sort of finishing move for black to deliver mate in just a couple of moves while I give you 1 more second. Okay, so we already sacked a bishop on f2. The proper move here is to sack another bishop on the f-file, and that is bishop to f5 with check. And the whole idea here is you just need to get the king on the right square to deliver checkmate. The king now has no squares to go to. It must take the bishop, but then you have this wonderful queen to g6, and this is most certainly checkmate. The queen is covering all of these squares, and the only 2 squares that are not covered by the queen are covered by these 2 pawns. So e5 and f4 both covered by the pawns, and this is checkmate. The king is all the way out on the 5th rank. There are 0 pieces. White has moved 0 pieces other than pawns and the king, that's obviously not going to work. And black is able to deliver an excellent checkmate. So a really fun gambit to play. If you ever are in this position, if you give away a pawn, that'll work and you can get some expansion. But in this case, this works even better, where white just ignores the gambit and you get an awesome attack with a pawn here on e5. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, drop subscribe, and we will see you next time.